All right, we are back again this week, and we're going to talk about what you should be doing if you have a windfall of money, whether it's winning the lottery or coming into a large inheritance or winning a court case, or if you've been waiting 20 weeks for unemployment to pay you or whatever the case may be. So we're going to go over some things you should do, some things you shouldn't do, and kind of get into all the fun of that. We're joined this week by special guest James Lowry here, who his mother actually won the lottery twice, so he has some insights into that. And before we get too in depth, I am enjoying a Sheboygan Brewing Blueberry Cream Ale this week. I love blueberry, and I was excited to try this one. And I will say it's a little hoppier than I would have liked. So Jim actually brought something over that we have mixed it with.
Right. So I actually brought over Founders Big Luscious, which is a limited run. It's a stout, but it's if you can see the picture there, it's a chocolate covered raspberry. So it's a chocolate raspberry stout. It's delicious. Kind of high in alcohol content. It's a 7.8%. But yeah, we mixed it with this other one to kind of cut down on the hoppiness a little bit. And I have to say, this mixture is definitely something I'll be pouring another one of soon.
Yeah, I love Big Luscious. Benson, do you have anything?
Yes, I am drinking. It's called Hawks. It's called Dead and Buried. It is a British style hard berry cider.
That sounds awesome.
Sounds really good too. I got lucky to get the sponsor again from my brother. Thanks for him for working out of town. So on the other side of the lake there, over in Wisconsin. So I have a New Glarus Brewing. I have a Wisconsin Belgian Red. I have a New Glarus Brewing Staghorn Oktoberfest beer. And what I'll probably finish the night with, because I like the dark ones at the end, is a coconut porter from City Lights Brewing. Awesome. Really exciting. All from Wisconsin. This one's from Milwaukee. The really cool thing about New Glarus, I'm reading right here on it. So it's New Glarus, Wisconsin, but they're an employee-owned company.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Right. So we've talked about treating your employees right and things like that. So I'm really excited for a couple of these. So
I've had that coconut beer before. I think you'll enjoy it. It's quite good.
Yeah. James, thanks for joining us. You don't meet too many people where their parents win the lottery once, let alone twice. So yeah, I think this is going to be huge. So
yeah, it's got to be kind of a unique thing. And just to clarify, so in 1986, I was 14 years old, and my mom, she worked in. My parents are both blue collar workers. My dad was a tool and die guy, and my mom worked on a manufacturing line. And reluctantly, because my mom was really sort of, I would say, morally, if not even philosophically opposed to gambling, she let some of her work friends talk her in, I want to say probably around 1984 or so, into going into one of these sort of pools, right? These workplace pools where everybody chips in $1 or $5, whatever, and they buy lottery tickets, and then they share the winnings. And gradually, things started to sort of taper off. I think it originally started like 10 or 12 people, then it was down to 5 or so. And literally within, I want to say maybe 3 to 6 months before my mom won, the last person dropped out of the pool. And I think my mom continued to do it because she was the one that had kind of been assigned to buy the tickets, right? So because the one place in Lowell, Michigan, where at that time where you could buy lottery tickets, and they very quickly became numerous after this, but the one place you could buy them was sort of on her way home, right? So everybody would chip in. I think they had drawings in those days twice a week, and everybody would chip in, $5 or whatever, and she would stop and buy the tickets, and she just kept doing that. And then one day, I remember it was the summer, it was August, I was home on summer break, and my mom, my parents would go to work fairly early in the morning. Probably about 6 a.m., my mom busted back into the house screaming. And we all woke up. My brothers and I woke up. We ran out. We thought she was hurt or something. And she had heard the lottery numbers on the radio. Again, 1986, no internet or anything. So they had the drawing the night before. She heard the lottery numbers that morning on the way to work, confirmed that they were correct, stopped and bought a newspaper, went to work, quit her job, and came home. And she ended up winning half of a $5 million jackpot, which in 1986 dollars, $2.5 million, was, that was a big deal. Right? That was life-changing money, right? It would probably be for a lot of people now as well, for most people. In those days, the Michigan lottery required that people take the annuity. So it was a $125,000 a year payout. First check she collected that day in Lansing. And then she got 19 more over the next, over a 20-year time period. And so, yeah, so she won, and it was an amazing thing, right? And she, again, I said she quit her job, so immediately retired. She's in her middle 50s. And again, 20-year payout. She was going to be living pretty comfortably, but it soon became apparent that math was going to end up, reducing her math and inflation. Really, we're gonna soon reduce her real income because even with low inflation over a 20-year period, I think it turned out that in 1986 dollars, by the time she got her last payout, which I think would have been in 2005, was about $70,000, reduced for inflation, right? The equivalent of about $70,000. So her 125, 1980, $125,1986 were worth about $70,000 dollars, in real terms. So she and my dad started to come up with some different investment strategies. So that I would say that, unlike a lot of people who come across a big inheritance or a big windfall or win the lottery, you hear about them being bankrupt and owing a lot of money and stuff in fairly short order. They were actually pretty smart about it, and they made some investments. They kind of diversified. They put money away in like cash instruments like CDs, things that were going to keep pace with inflation roughly. They invested in some stocks and things like that. And then actually my mom then listed her official profession as gambler, because then any additional, and she kept playing and started going and doing slot machines and stuff like that, not excessively, but any losses that she incurred as a result of that, and even travel expenses related to that, which, because she loved to travel, she could deduct as expenses from her taxes. So she got to be pretty savvy about all of that, right, over the years. My dad died a few years after she won the lottery the first time, and she was a widow for the rest of her life. But and then interestingly, around the time she got her last check, she had started working with my wife to do her taxes. For a long time she went to a CPA, but because of some changes in her investments and some other things, she didn't really need the expertise of a professional accountant anymore. So she started asking my wife to do her taxes. One day, I guess it's probably around 2006 or 2007, she invited us to lunch, and it was usually, it was about that time of year. It was like probably February or March, and that was usually when she would invite us out, and she would turn over all of her tax documents for the year. My wife would take them home and start her taxes, and she said, she tapped the table twice, I remember, on top of the documents in front of us, and she said, something I'm going to tell you, but you can't tell any of not even any of your brothers or sisters. She said, I won the lottery again last year. So this time around, it wasn't quite as much, and I don't remember exactly what the mechanism was, but instead of $2.5 million, she actually won $250,000. So I think it was one of those things like where she got everything but the Powerball or whatever, and so it was a fixed one-time payment kind of a thing. But again, so then she was, she put that aside, and because she had enough income from her investments and some other things that she had done, including, I guess she still got Social Security or whatever, I don't know, but she still she still had enough income, so she set a lot of that aside, and actually that's when she started her trust. She started transferring all of her assets into a trust, and because she was getting on in years, she was in her 70s by that point, and so then that became a little bit more of a different approach to how she was doing things. But by the time she did pass away about 6 years ago, her entire estate, which was still pretty sizable, not huge, but pretty sizable, was in a trust. And my brothers and I were part of that. We were also trustees, and so that really helped with sort of the the tax implications of passing that inheritance on to us. So
sure. So
that's the story.
You were in college then the first time she won.
High school, actually. I was
High school,
14.
okay.
Yep. I was the youngest, and my siblings were like college age and older, out on their own. But yeah, I was in high school, so her lottery money certainly paid for me to go to school for sure.
So, all right. So, right, what everybody wants to know, I mean, besides the fact of, winning millions, what was your parents' biggest purchase when they won?
Well, it's funny that you asked that. The house, they bought land and then had a house built. So it
Okay.
wasn't like an immediate sort of thing. And that was that was an investment as well. But I forgot to mention this. Literally the day before my mom won, they bought a new car.
Oh,
And
geez.
they'd taken out, I think they put like 50% down on it or something like that. And so I guess the first big thing was my mom wrote a fat check to the bank to pay it off.
Yeah, to pay off that car.
Yep.
And then what did you kids get?
I've got a new bike. And,
oh, wow.
Right. Yeah. And when I turned 16, though, in addition to my parents paying for my college education, which was, that was a sizable thing.
Yeah.
They did buy me a car. It wasn't a new car, but they did. And again, they didn't really make a whole lot of changes to their lifestyle. So they did a lot of nice things, and they did a lot of, very nice things for my nephews and nieces, their grandchildren. My mom was always helping people out, but it was never like they didn't go crazy and buy, make these huge, massive purchases or anything like that. They took very measured steps. One of the things that they did immediately, though, which I would recommend to anyone who finds themselves, especially in those days, it had to be public. So the second time my mom won, we didn't even know, right, until it became tax time, because she did it anonymously, which I think is pretty much an option for everyone. But in Michigan in the 1980s, if you won the lottery, it was required to be public. They took your picture. In fact, I think there was some print and television advertising even that had our pictures in it. And so everybody knew we won the lottery. It was on the front page of the Grand Rapids Press. It was a feature article in our local newspaper. People came out of the woodwork, right? With every sob story you can imagine. Relatives we didn't know we had, showed up. So I would say that changing your phone number, obviously now we have cell phones and stuff, so it's a lot harder to track people down. Making sure that your public footprint in terms of your location you'd want to change your social media profiles to be private, certainly. If you do have if your house appears on white pages or whatever, want to do whatever you can to make sure that you have as little of a public presence if people find out, if it's in the news or so. Yep.
So feel free not to give an exact amount.
No, my life's an open book. So
when your mother passed, okay, so we know that in total she won $2,750,000, right?
Yep.
In winnings. When she passed, about what percentage was actually still left?
I would say her estate was probably, my brother would know for sure because he was her executor, and I guess he was the head of the as well, right? He was like that.
Yes. So you got stuck doing the accounting, and he got in charge of delivering the money.
So including her home and everything, and I know what the final amount was after some of her, there was some certain, I can't even remember what debt she had, but there were a few small ones. She had probably about, I want to say, I don't know the exact amount, but certainly between $500,000 and $750,000 left. Okay,
so she was still about half of a third of what she had originally won, which is nice.
Right.
Guys, I don't mean, I've never stopped one of these to talk about a beer, but I want you to, I'm saving this. This New Glarus Wisconsin Belgian Red is literally hands down probably now officially in my top 3 beers of all times.
That good, huh?
I took 2 sips of this thing and I was like, oh wow, like just so amazing. And then I look on here and it's got a wreath and it says world champion. You know what? I don't want to tell anybody to go buy this beer because I'm going to start wanting it.
Right. You don't want it.
Oh my goodness, this is an amazing beer. Like, big shout out to my brother on this one. Like, he wins MVP of the week on this bad boy.
Well, yep. When you said Red Belgian, I was thinking that's gonna be a good beer right there for sure.
It's got a picture of cherries. I didn't realize it until like I drank it. I was like, oh, it's got like it's a great beer. All right, so
No, hang on. If you're going off on a tangent, I'm going off on a tangent. So I forgot to mention this at the beginning. Nick and I love to talk about success stories. So I had a friend contact me about 3 weeks ago, wanted to talk about, hey, what do we do to fix our credit so we can buy a house? So I started looking at, what they had out there and really, they had one thing in collections and really no other credit. So I started asking about the thing in collections. It was, it was a store credit card for about $2,600. And I said, well, here's what I would do. I would call them and I would see, hey, what would you take just to get rid of this? And I don't want to get the numbers wrong. So I'm actually going to pull up the message I got the other day. Because
had the debt been sold yet, or was it still
I believe it was still with the company.
Okay.
So
yeah, they don't want to write it off, right?
No.
So
it was a $2,700 bill. They settled for $675.
Ooh, bingo!
Awesome.
All because you ask, right? That's the biggest thing.
Yep.
So not to take us on a tangent, but since Nick already took us off on beers, so
yeah, beer and success story. I think
hell
those are
yeah.
good tangents.
That's like a winning episode. We could just call it a night, right? Like,
Hell
subscribe,
yeah.
share, we gotta go. So, all right. So you're in high school. Your parents. I mean, did they respect your opinions of things? I mean, financially, did you help them in any way? Like what?
Well, no, I mean, yeah, I was 14 years old, right? So, and they had some friends. In fact, I have a cousin who's a financial planner, like certified, and actually was an accountant as well. And so I did have some input into, some of the things we did. Like, for example, I was the one that, kind of helped them find the land that they built their house on and things like that. And I actually helped design the house, keeping in mind that this is going to be, we designed it for resale, right? My parents had some pretty outlandish things that they wanted to do, and and I kind of knew the market a little bit. I take some architecture classes, and I knew some folks that were in that business and in the building trades and that sort of thing, and said, what can we do to these plans to make it so that they could, when it comes time to resell this, it's not going to be difficult. Just because of some of the features they wanted to put in would have been one of those things like, having a built-in aquarium in your basement was kind of a cool thing, but those things like that can actually inhibit the value of a home, or at least so we kind of built that. So, I helped them make some of those decisions, and I did help them, I think, to some degree, in terms of, I did some research for them, because again, this is pre-internet, right? I did do some research for them in terms of some of the, like the non, like the long-term investments with things like commodities, like precious metals and stuff like that, right? So they knew they wanted to make some investments in some riskier stock type things. So they actually, within probably 2 or 3 years, had a pretty diversified portfolio, and they had some cash instruments like CDs. They bought some. They did some private investment, which was a pretty small amount, and then they also did some commodities, as well as some. And I think I said the stocks already too, right? So they were basically looking at diversifying about a third of what they were investing, which was about half of what they got. So they were basically setting aside about half for investment and the other half to live on, which was still more than their annual income had been by a pretty significant amount.
Sure.
Yep.
So yeah, and that's I know David and I, right? We were figuring out, hey, what are some things that we're going to tell you guys what to do with this stuff, right? And I think you hit it on the head, where you have a cousin who is a financial advisor or a financial analyst, or and so hey, right, you're gonna do exactly what you said. Hide your appearance if you can. There's some states out there that still won't let you.
Yep.
You have to be public. But right then you reach out to somebody who's gonna help you financially, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if somebody tells you no, it's not a great idea, figure out what kind of a person you're going to deal with, right? Like,
Exactly.
I say, we talk about it in a bunch of episodes. I don't want people to not live a life that they want, but I also don't want people to be poor 2 days later, right?
Exactly.
So, save for it and understand. Yeah, if you build a brand new $2.5 million house, right? Like then you're paying taxes on that forever, and you have to go back to work. So
Exactly. Or you have to sell it because to recover the money, right? Yep.
Yeah. So, those are some of the biggest keys that I had right in the beginning was, hey, make sure you team up with somebody who has your best interest in the long-term game. I don't know anybody that wants to retire and then come out of retirement,
Exactly.
because of finances. So,
Well, we talked at the beginning of this about, lottery or inheritance or what have you. And, we talked before when my aunt passed away, she left, a pretty decent sized estate, we'll say. And the first thing we did was I did not take control of that money and I didn't invest any of it.
Mhm.
I went and talked with a financial advisor. I said, this is what I needed to do for my mother. I needed to last her through retirement. What steps do we need to take? And it was about 255,000. And when we sat down at the beginning of the year, it was at like 250,000. And she's taking disbursements because she has to.
Mhm.
But really, the market had done so well up to that point, she wasn't losing money. And now I think it's around 230 because, the market's been up and down since COVID hit. But, I didn't want to take the responsibility for, hey, do these things. And then if it loses a bunch of money,
Right.
she's pissed off because I gave her bad advice. So we went, to a third party that didn't have any real stake in this actual money so that more informed decisions could be made.
I think that's important too, David, in terms of having that sort of impartial third party. So as I said, my cousin was both a CPA and a financial advisor, but he actually said, I don't want this, I don't think it's in everyone's best interest, including, then you have to think about things like familial relationships and stuff. So he advised my parents on what to do, but they actually hired another firm to actually handle their investments and to do their taxes and things like that, right?
Which
A more disinterested third party.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of responsibility. I mean, right? I do it all the time, right? I mean, David, right? When we sit with people, we're like, this is what we find works. This is where we would put money, but just know, we say it on here all the time. Just know everything has risk.
Yep.
Everything, and I mean, always take the educated risk. But I mean, my mom comes to me now for a little advice here and there, right? Because she watches some of these, and and even before then, she's like, "Oh man, Nick's growing real estate, so he's understanding." But she never invests with me. Like, I won't take her money for investments, like things like that. Like, it's just, I don't want to mix any of that type of a thing. Yes. Do I find myself wanting to be successful, and do I wish I could make her successful with it? Yes, but I'd much rather have a mom than have a business partner.
Absolutely. Yeah. In that situation, what my parents did, they basically paid my cousin they paid him basically a finder's fee, right? Of they gave him $10,000 or $15,000 or whatever. But it was also, I mean, there was he helped them come up with a plan. He found he did some research and found the right place for them, and and my mom was very happy with them again until she really didn't need them anymore for 15 years or more.
Sure.
But I would say, because especially any kind of big windfall, people are going to come out of the woodwork. Long lost relatives, the annoying uncles and things like that, right? And so you have to have a plan in advance as to what what, if anything, you're going to do for these people. And you need to, I think, take any sort of, again, you can take advice from family members, but I would say don't invest through them, because it's both a relationship and a financial disaster waiting to happen. Right?
Sure. So, and I want to bring up, right? So lottery, yes, you have to sometimes tell, but let's say David, I mean, right? When your aunt passed, your mom got it, and the only people that really know is you. Right?
Everybody on YouTube.
Well, but now they have to figure out who you are exactly, track down your mom, track down, or technically, do all that, and then realize, what she has, and then she's, everybody on YouTube now just is going to know that she's going to ask you for questions. So I think we've done a good job at, at knowing that nobody's getting a dime, right? But yeah, it's like, that's the stuff you have to, so. Right, like my family, we talk about it right now, and I get my mom. Like, one thing that we talk about, so we talked about it in the death episode, right? Is like, kind of set yourself up for the person that's going to make these decisions, because, right, like, again, if my sister gets control of the money, that money's gone, right? Like, mom had $0, and I'm like, just yesterday she had $1 million, like,
Right.
So just know. Like, know who you're getting into business with, know who you're, trusting and stuff, everything like that. So I think one of the biggest keys here is you don't need to tell everybody that you've made a bunch of money, right? I mean, we talk about our money on here because we want to be open books and things like that. But, our net worths technically aren't strictly out there because, it doesn't make us any different of who we are. So we don't change because of that. So, if I were to sit here and say, hey, I'm worth 15 million bucks, oh, hey, man, everybody's going to be like, hey, Nick, blah, blah, blah. What do you, and I'm like, look, I just want to drink beer with my boys.
Right?
I think that's a big advice for a lot of people is, when you go to Christmas, if it's awkward, remove yourself from the situation, right? I mean, money shouldn't change people. It should just change how you live your life, right?
It should definitely change the quality of beer that you buy. And I will say, the one big benefit of my mom winning the lottery before I went to college is that I did not drink cheap beer when I turned 21, for sure. That did not happen.
I still got Bud. I still drink my Milwaukee's Best once in a blue moon, or my Miller High Life.
Yep.
Yeah, it shouldn't change a thing about you. I was more broke than drinking more expensive things. So,
well, and one of the things you hear a lot about the lottery winners or the people that get a big windfall of money is, not only do they lose their money, but they get robbed more often because now people know. So, I was reading about a lottery winner earlier that got robbed 2 different occasions and lost $275,000 each time because he had it sitting in his car. And I don't know how stupid you have to be to keep it in your car, but hey,
where's it located?
Yeah, exactly. It was broke now because it kept getting stolen. Or the people that, obviously if you have a bunch of money and people know it, you're open to lawsuits.
Sure.
Very much.
Yep.
Very
so
much.
You really have to protect yourself and your identity if these things happen. I used to think if we ended up winning a Powerball, let's say, how do I protect that money? Do I have my mom claim it, or do I have my daughter claim it, or what do I do to minimize a bunch of idiots coming out of the woodwork?
Well,
go ahead.
The biggest thing to do on that is, right, you put your money into a lot of places.
Right.
I mean, there's times, I guess this is personal, whatever. There's times where I have walked around with, I think the largest actual liquid cash, I had $26,000 in liquid cash, right? And I was nervous as crap everywhere I was driving. It was, I didn't sleep, like, it was insane. Right? You sleep with your hand on the safe, even though that safe could just get taken. But, I don't know. I don't know a number, I guess. I say like $3,000 max is the most you should have liquid cash at any time if you're intending to go purchase something, I guess, let's say, right? Like, you shouldn't carry it just because you want to, but, if you're going for a purchase and you want to prove that you're putting money down on something, I think if you showed up with like $3,000 cash, like, hey, I want to buy this $20,000 car, this is enough to hold it while I go get a check for the other 17 type of a thing. I don't think, I say 270,000. That's insane. I hope everybody else that's watching this has seen the lotto, where they are now and where they were then. My favorite is the guy and his son. His dad won it, and he's like teaching it. They get like an etiquette person, and they go out to these fancy dinners.
Yep.
And the dude rented a motel room, right? Like with a key card, and he has like all these Jordans and all these jerseys, and like they show on this thing what the motel is and like what room number, and I'm just like,
right.
insane, right? But like you should know, there's a chance that your Jordans are probably, I doubt they have the insurance on that room, because I'm not sure you can insure somebody else's property. I guess renter's insurance covered for like $1 million policy or something, but it just, and you just watch so many people like, right. We all laugh because I remember when the Powerball, this is probably, I'm always really short. I always think it's like 3 years ago, and usually it's like 10 years ago. I want to say, like 10 years ago or so, there was a guy who was getting filmed when the Powerball was like 500 million bucks or something. And the dude turns around and she goes, "What are you going to do?" And he goes, "Hookers and cocaine."
Yeah.
Right. But like,
Right.
greatest answer we all want to hear, but there's people that just go out and do that, right? Like they take hundreds and they go to the strip club and just have it, and they just blow all their money, and right, then they're broke within a year. I mean, just because they bought 4 Lambos they didn't need because they wanted one in every color. I mean, they just don't go, buy a Lambo, right? Buy one. Understand how much the payments and how much it's going to cost to maintain that thing is going to be before you go buy a second, right? I mean, buy a house. To me, houses are usually assets. I mean, you get up into the higher thing, you have to keep it updated for it to stay at its value. That's the biggest. Most people don't understand that, right? When you're getting into $1 million homes, I mean, we're in the Midwest, right? We're not talking San Francisco where $1 million is just a 2-bedroom
apartment.
Right. I mean, over there, right? We're talking 30 million, but anything that's like $1 million and more, right? Like, yeah, it'd be worth $1 million when you buy it, but it's like the only asset that, like, if you don't keep putting in the newest tile, the newest, flooring, the newest sinks and all that, like, it's not worth $1 million anymore. Like, it keeps going down in cost. Like, they came out with the new like sensor things to do your dishes or whatever. And it's like, if you don't put that faucet in, nobody's going to buy that. Nobody wants to actually physically turn on a water when you have that kind of money. I mean, so, just know what assets are, right? That's the biggest thing. Know what an asset is and know what a liability is at that point.
Well, I think one of the biggest mistakes a lot of the lottery winners or the people that get a huge windfall of money is, I'm just immediately quitting my job. I hate my job.
Yep.
If you hate your job, by all means, quit your job and go find something you enjoy doing.
Yep.
But I know if I won the lottery tomorrow, let's say I won Powerball and it was at $1 billion. I got 3 of you here. Jim, you think I'm quitting my job?
Yeah.
Nick?
$1 billion? Yeah. I mean, yes.
Mike?
I've heard you say it. No, you're going to become an unbearable asshole till they fire you.
All right. They're going to have to fire you.
I'm not quitting my job. For one, I work from home.
Yeah.
Okay. I work from home. I enjoy what I do. I'm not quitting my job. Secondly, if I get fed up with my job, I'm going to become the biggest unbearable asshole that exists. You need to come into work today. No,
Fuck you.
I'm not coming. You need to do that. No, I'm not doing that. Fuck you. And people have told me before, well, you won't last very long. That's not my decision. That's yours. You decide to fire me, that's on you.
No, I think at $1 billion, I think you're full of crap. But if we're talking a few million, I think you're telling the truth. But $1 billion, right? $1 billion, I don't know.
I'm probably still working.
Yeah, billion's not fuck you money. That's fuck everybody money.
Seriously, it is. But honestly, even with I like my job, but I could be insufferable for a little while there and be really happy with myself.
So everybody knows
my job too. But if I got a lump sum of like 500 million, I've told my boss, like, don't expect me to see me the next day.
I don't have my job, and it was funny because like I liked my job, but I always had that like dream of whatever else, and so I was going from like, hey, if I won $1 million, I'm out, right? And then like I remember like a year later, I'm like, dude, if I'm at like 850,000, I'm out. Like it got down to like if I get like 33,000 bucks, like
I'm
what, like I'm out. I don't, like you guys, like I'm splitting this. Let's go. It's just that point. Like I'm gonna call him with an eye problem, right? Like
Right.
I don't see myself coming in anymore.
Right.
But no, so don't make drastic decisions. I think that's a big key.
Yep.
If you're not a financially sound person, I guess I would say, right? But if you're, any one of these guys that are watching, I mean, they have their finances kind of together. They know that they're not overspenders by any way. We have tendencies, right? But like, if I won $1 million, right, I know that I can make that last for a long time. I mean, it's $40,000 a year, and I'll never touch the million at 4%, right? Like, I mean, I'm pretty content with that, right? I mean, my life isn't perfect, but I will be investing and yeah, right. Like David said, I would be opening a business to do something I loved. I would be doing something I love every day.
Yep.
So I can't say I'm not working. I mean, I work now and talk to you guys, and this is tough work, drinking beer and talking to you guys. So right, I would just figure out how to get paid for it. So
I'd open the brewery that sponsors you guys.
We appreciate that. I can't wait for you to win. Let's say.
Well, I think that's where, obviously it's being, I don't want to say smart, being educated about your decisions, being educated about your money.
Yep.
Don't do things impulsively or make rash decisions. Make sure everything you do at that point is extremely calculated and that you're really focused on the long term, not the short term. Hey, 3 Lambos would be awesome. I want one in red, blue, and yellow. But you don't need, honestly, Nick and I differ here. You don't need 1 Lambo.
No.
Don't buy it. If you need to pay off your current car.
Exactly.
This is my favorite. Nick tells me all the time, every person he knows that has money has an old beater truck that's fully paid for. Am I right or wrong?
It's a true story.
It's interesting that I don't remember when this was, and again, I have this time dilation thing too, Nick. So it could have been 5 years ago, it could have been 20 years ago. But I read an article, and I want to say it's probably closer to 20 years ago, about, they said, talking about how many millionaires there are in terms of people with total assets of over $1 million in the United States, how many there were. And it said, and then it gave some interesting statistics. I don't remember the exact numbers, but it's something like they realized $52,000 a year in income. They drive a car that's 6 years old. They, basically they had almost no debt.
Yeah, and that's it's funny because that statistic hasn't changed for so many years, right? Like there's a basic thing, things are paid off. They don't buy new cars. They live within their means. That's a big thing. That statistic has been around for so long. Because I read it all the time. One question I had to ask: do you gamble?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh no, I play poker, but I don't gamble.
So you don't play the lotto?
Never have.
Your mom has won it twice. Your mom has won it twice, and you don't play.
My God, my mom got all the luck. Seriously, this woman, like, she could walk into a room, and if there's a raffle or something, she'd win it. I'm not joking about that. I don't have that skill. I have other things that I'm lucky with, but no, I did.
That skill. I'm glad we're calling it a skill.
Well, it's got to be a skill, right? I mean, there's got to be something to it. Interestingly, another cousin of mine, it's actually my mom's cousin, it was a real professional gambler. He won, I want to say in 89 or 90, he won one of the World Series of Poker events in Las Vegas. He got the gold bracelet, the whole 9 yards. It was, I think, Omaha Hold'em. And he taught me how to play poker. And I worked for him for a little while in his pizza place. And so I do occasionally play poker, but I don't consider that to be a gambling. That's a game of skill, right? You're playing against the other player, not against the house. I don't do anything where the house against the house, because whether it's the lottery or whatever. Also, I'm mathematically literate, and my wife, it's a really funny thing. My wife was a math teacher, and so she used to, one of the exercises that she did when she was teaching high school math was probability. So she was teaching her students probability. She'd say, okay, what's the expected payoff of winning the lot or of playing the lottery? The expected payoff of buying a $1 lottery ticket is like 0.9999999 whatever, that's the negative amount, right? And
Yeah.
then she would go through that whole exercise, and then she'd say, now I have to tell you about my mother-in-law, right? The luckiest woman on earth. But no, I don't. I've probably twice in my life bought a lottery ticket, and one time when I was in Vegas, other than playing poker, I was in Vegas for a conference, and I was a speaker at the conference, and they gave me like $100 chip, and I used that. I went played some poker, and then I think I ended up winning about $5,000, and I put $1,000 down on a blackjack table and lost, and that's the only time I ever played blackjack.
There you go. So, all right. I want to talk about inheritance, and then we want to talk a little bit about, smaller amounts of money, but still substantial to people. I mean, right. So let's hit on the small amounts. So if you're one of the people that are waiting for your unemployment money, right? And you're an average American, you have rent or a mortgage, right? Chances are you have a car loan, things like that, right? So you're doing this COVID. My biggest suggestion to you, right? Let's say you get 20 grand back, 15 grand back. Great. Don't just go buy a big screen TV. You need to pay off debts. You need to get current, because you're on unemployment, and if you've got your job back, you're still going to get that money. But like you need to make sure your debts are paid, right? Because staying in debt is just going to keep driving you down. You're just going to go back to the life that you had of getting debt. So this is like, look at it as like a gift to say, hey, I'm catching back up, and you have that deep breath that you can take finally. So,
Well, that's a good segue in. So Nick and I coached a girl who I will not mention who it is, but she had defaulted on one of her student loans, and her and I were talking, and she goes, yeah, I'm waiting for my unemployment because I don't feel safe going to work. And I'm like, all right, so what are you going to do when you get it? And she goes, I don't really know. I'm like, we need to pay that debt.
Yeah,
let's pay that debt
sure,
off.
Sure.
So she finally got the money, and full disclosure, I don't know how much it was, but let's say she got $8,000. Okay. I know that bill was $2,500-ish. The first thing I said was, hey kid, go pay that off. Let's just get rid of that. You're out from under it. You don't have to worry about it anymore. And at that point, we can figure out what to do with any money that's left over, pay current bills, save money, whatever. Because honestly, until you can get away from that debt, you're not doing yourself any favors.
Right. If it's, I don't know what you want to call it, educated debt, right? Which we've talked about, I guess, 0% interest, 1% interest on things. If it's a house, right? You don't need to chunk it all down, right? Make sure you have your security deposit or your emergency funds, or right. Set yourself up so that way, if another wave of something, if this ever happens again, make sure you have a little bit of money. But if you're talking 1/4 of your big lump sum is going to pay off something, you'll be fine having 3/4 left.
Right.
I say now, James, when we were talking just a little bit before this, and you had told me your mother passed, and
yep.
you guys, so you and your brother, you have more siblings?
There's 6 of us total.
6 of you. Okay.
Yep.
So you split it all. Now, did you guys, did you owe it? Did you owe on your house still when your mom passed? Like, what did you do with your lump sum?
Yeah, so we put it toward, so when we put it toward paying off loans and things like that. Absolutely.
Okay.
So we had a mortgage, a 10-year mortgage, right? So and paid that down, paid some other things down.
Okay.
Having said that, not all of my siblings made wise decisions, and so that was, it's been an interesting thing to see that, right? It's the whole, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. We actually all met in advance of this and kind of talked about a lot of the things we're talking about now. One thing that I do want to mention, depending on the type of sort of windfall that you get, is the tax implications that people forget about, right? especially
Sure.
people that are W-2 that are used to having taxes drawn. I don't want to forget to mention that. But so yeah, it was interesting to see what happened. And I have siblings. So I'm 48 now. My mom died 6 years ago, so I was in my early 40s. I have some siblings that are substantially older than I am. So for them, things like they probably don't have mortgages anymore and stuff like that. But just interesting, to see some of the decisions that they made. But we all do our own thing, right?
Sure.
But having said that, I know that there were a couple of instances, at least, where there were some issues with because people, that like one of my brothers decided to prepay his rent for a year, which was a good idea until the year ended and he didn't have any money left, and he was stuck with then renewed his lease and didn't have any because he quit his job, didn't have any money to pay for his rent anymore, kind of thing, right?
Oh
So
no.
I literally I have one sibling who literally ended up like almost on the streets because a year after my mom died, he was almost on the streets just because he couldn't manage the basics of his finances.
Sure. So and that's it's huge, right? I mean, you have
Yep.
enough to change your life for a little bit of time. You don't have enough to change your life forever. And
Exactly, right?
I go back and I still fight David on this $1 billion, right? That's enough to change forever.
Well, looking at inheritance too. So, I kind of have both sides of the coin there. So in 2008, my grandmother passed, and the piece of shit she was married to passed like a month later. And my mother ended up having to rebuy the house we owned because he decided to rewrite his will. So by the time my aunt passed away, we had a mortgage on the house, and I had bought a motorhome to, take my aunt to Tucson, which we made it just the other side of St. Louis before we had to turn around and come back. So, I mean, when my mother got that money, which before we found out about the 250,000, there was obviously money in the checking account. There was a couple other life insurances we knew about. My mom, the first thing I told her was, let's pay off the house. We got to pay it off. So she paid off the house. She turned around and paid off the motorhome. And then we decided, okay, well, there's even more money here. We need to figure out what to do now.
Mhm.
But we made sure that the important things were paid off. My mother didn't have to pay for the house anymore. This motorhome, now I'm out from under, and we can just move on with life as what should have been normal in the first place.
So now your parents had a bunch of money, right? So they built a house. Now, James, with did your parents prepay for anything? I mean, what did they like? Did they just dump like 10 grand on their electrical bill so they didn't have to pay it forever? Like, I mean, your brother prepaid for a whole year's rent.
Yeah. Now my parents, what they did was they paid cash for the land,
Okay.
and made a substantial down payment on their house. But interestingly, and again, my parents became very. To give you a little bit more background, my mom, I think, quit high school when she was 16, not well educated at all. My dad actually got into legal trouble and joined the Marine Corps in the 1950s to get away from that, but got a college degree while he was in the Marines. And so, but he was always very savvy mathematically, and he kind of was sort of in charge of my parents' finances. And so he would, it was for him, it was just a math formula. So he realized that he could make, because interest rates were pretty low in those days as well, in the late 80s, he could make more money on his investments than he would pay on a mortgage. So instead of paying cash for the house, he took out like a 10-year loan, and he had negotiated something where he was making one payment a year.
Oh,
And
perfect.
it was like 5.5%, but he's making 12% on his investments. So he was pretty smart about doing that, right? So he prepaid for things where it made sense. And they would do that. And then interestingly, they would do some things for example, so that car that they bought the day before they won the lottery, when it came time to trade that in, he ran all these numbers and figured out he could prepay a lease and actually come out ahead as opposed to buying or just leasing a vehicle, right? So he did like a 3-year lease on a car, prepaid it at a ridiculous interest rate and a ridiculously low interest rate. He didn't pay, but it was better than whatever he figured, because he figured out the having one of my brothers being in the car, having been in the car sort of sales industry, he kind of advised them on some things, and they were able to figure out what the best strategy for that was. It's the only time I think they ever leased a car, because then after that, the numbers didn't make sense anymore. So a lot of these decisions just became very sort of dry mathematical formulas for them after a while, right? But so yeah, they did prepay some things occasionally. Like I said, they pay cash for the land. They and they did prepay for some other things too. Like they knew, for example, that they were going to need certain legal and financial services from their accountant and so forth. So they actually ended up doing business. And one of the things that my cousin, who's a financial advisor, that he put into his calculus in terms of helping them figure out where to go and what firm to use, was it was a law firm and an accounting firm, and they specialized in these sort of like kind of windfall situations. And one of the things that they did was prepay for those services. Right?
Okay.
So they basically paid them a giant retainer because they knew that at the end, for like something like 10 or 15 years.
Sure.
Which is zero, like no interest. And then again, that was to their advantage because of inflation, right? They would have been paying more and more and more, as opposed to paying it up front. Then they actually kind of, they came out ahead on that deal.
Sure. I say one thing I want to tell everybody, no matter how secure, so let's say you're like a person that's like, oh, I don't want to do investments. I don't want to, just know that if you think, hey, I'm just going to throw it all into a checking account, like, and it'll be secure. Well, so checking accounts are maxed at $250,000 that the federal government will back, right? So you have to put that money into other spots. Like, I mean, yes, you can put it there, but it's not financially backed, right? So let's say stupidly somebody, we talk about it, right? Somebody gets your information, knows who you are as a winner. They take, they rack up a bunch of money.
Identity theft.
You can't prove it, right? They get into your bank account and they take a bunch of money. I mean, you're just out of that money. The federal government is not going to back you on that.
Sure.
And then you won't have the money to hire the people to do the investigation to get your money back. So just know that you're going to, at that point in your life, you're going to have to put stuff to risk, right? I mean, you can do CDs. You can, if you win $1 billion, just open a bank yourself and loan it out. Not David though. David's going to keep working. No,
I am going to keep working. So screw you.
We actually have a friend, Nick. I don't know if we've told you about this or not. We have a friend whose brother literally has millions of dollars in gold buried in the Australian outback.
Yep. Buried. Because he's waiting for end of days.
Yep.
In Australia?
In Australia.
I mean, that's a strategy, right?
I mean, what's a plane ticket right now? Like $800? Like, I got time right now, bro.
He lives there.
Yeah, but I'm going to tell you right now, Australia is a continent. That's a big place to start digging.
I got time, bro.
That'd be like digging through all of Canada and all of the United States.
Nah, that's boring. I mean, if I know there's gold in a spot, I'm going.
Right? I'm sure you can get him to talk somehow, but I didn't say that out loud.
It seems like he's Ron Swanson.
He
knows how much his money weighs.
Yeah, I feel like that.
But not how much money he has.
Right?
And it's buried somewhere.
Yep. I want everybody to know. So now we're going to go into inheritance a little bit, right? So we talked, David's hit on it quite a bit with his mom inheriting money. So most of the time, right? I mean, James, you were 42 when your mother passed. I mean, David, I guess my mom's not 60 yet, so she's 50 something, but I don't know how much longer my grandfather will last, right? But I'm going to assume you're going to be right around that 60s mark, unless you have that grandparent that lasts till 100 and something. Good for you. I'm the happiest person, but most, I say, what's the average lifespan of a male is like 78 years old?
73 to 76.
And then women are above that, right? They all
79, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, because what's the saying? Women nag men to death, and then say no. But say I love you, wife, if you're watching this. But
We all
you know,
love our wives except for Mike, who doesn't have one.
7. So
He's a
you know,
smart one down there.
What?
smart man. But yeah, so you figure at 70, you know, if your
I'm
mom's
over there.
78, and let's say she was the younger one, so 20 years off of that, right, puts you at 58. So right around 60 years old or less,
Mhm.
you have a potential to come into some money. Chances are you're still a few years out from retirement. You're not, I mean, most people, they retire when their house is paid, so they're you know, they've moved a bunch of times. They, you know, they bought a house when they're 35, so they have till 65 when it's paid off at 30 years, because people don't prepay for houses. They're not
Right.
they're not us type thing. Right. So our biggest thing is just right, take whatever little bit of money you have and just guarantee that you can retire on time or a little early, right? So my thing is like pay off your house, pay off any debts that you might have. So that way, when you get retirement, that money is just yours, and you don't have to have these guaranteed financial things that are headed out there. You know, if your parents were multimillionaires and they're leaving you, you know, a few $1,000,000, right? At that point, yes, okay, make sure you pay off your stuff and then retire, right? Make the decisions. But so my biggest thing is like start with a clean slate. So by clean slate, I mean make sure you don't have negatives, go right to zero, everything is above. You officially know that this is all positives. And the only things that are coming out of your pocket are your normal utilities and things like that. So I think that's my biggest advice. You know, if you're coming into $1 million or more, right, get some financial help. If you're not a person that's financially savvy, right, I don't care if it's $500,000, get yourself some financial help, because right, you're going to pay a person $20,000 and they're going to make sure that you don't blow through all that money. You know, you know, the chances are if you're not financially savvy, you probably don't have $500,000 sitting around, right? So, I find that, you know, we always say it, right? Know who you are, know what type of a person you are, and then make decisions based off that.
So I have a friend.
No,
Him and I do. Only like 3.
just one.
So him and I were talking the other day, and his stepfather had set up a trust for all of the kids and stepkids and stuff. And he told me specifically, he goes, yeah, it's managed by a guy that was, you know, a friend, and you have to ask them for any money over whatever you're getting in that specific year. He goes, you know, when I wanted to buy something, if I wanted to get money out of that trust, I had to go to him and say, hey, I want this money. And he'd say specifically, what do you need it for? And if he didn't make a good case, the answer was, yeah, no, I'm not giving you any of that money. You're just not getting it.
It's like Alfred Batman, right?
Yeah, it really is. So
it's a guardianship almost.
you have this set of checks and balances to say, okay, yeah, that's a wasteful purchase. You know, I want to go buy a new $50,000 truck. That's great. Go buy it with your money. You're not buying it with the trust money because it's just not a sound business investment here. Now, you know, I want to make this investment. Maybe that is a sound business investment. And he can say, yeah, that sounds good. We'll pull some money to go make that investment. But, you know, up until the point where, I mean, really, Caitlin's 25, I always had somebody appointed to, if I drop dead, this is the person that's going to manage her money, because, you know, I don't trust her to just manage it because she's 25.
Yeah, she's a kid.
Yeah. Well, and you have to have that person that can say no, right? I mean, when it comes to money, as you know, we talked about it in the beginning of the episode, right? There's people that come out of the woodworks. So you're going to have people that come out of the woodworks, and let's say you're a person that just always gives. So let's say you have a trust, and you get somebody, oh, well, my kid's in the hospital, and you get the biggest sad story. And we all feel bad for that, right? We all do. Yeah. But you have to have that person that says, look, this is going to continue to happen. No matter how much you give, it's not going to change. Life isn't going to go any different for this person. I have to tell you no. So you need that person that's a no person, because if you're a yes person, which Yes Man is a good movie, but like, right, we don't need you to give away everything. We don't need you to lose everything. We want you to
Brewster's Millions, right?
Right. I mean, even if you have $1 billion, you still work. Get out of here.
You know, and looking at it, so I'm always the type of person that wants to help, and that's great. Nick is a helper, Mike's a helper, Jim's a helper. We all love to help people, but everybody needs help. And at some point, you have to say, "No, I can't help everybody. I'm sorry."
Well, it drains the tank. Right?
It
drains
really
your
does.
Finances. It drains you emotionally, physically.
So you have to have somebody sitting there saying, "No, you're just not doing this.
Yep.
This is not a good idea. We're not doing this anymore."
Uh-oh.
Do you have a bat flying
Is
at
it a
you or
spider?
some shit?
No, I have like this giant bee that's like flying at my light, and like I just heard it buzzing, and like I look up, and this thing is 3 inches, like I don't know, 2.5 inches. I don't want to over exaggerate with 3, but
a big bee.
you're going, I'm about to get hurt. Like like it's the biggest
It
bee
might
I've
actually be a bat.
I thought Dracula was flying at you or
Right?
some shit there.
Yeah, well, we have bats constantly. So
I know you do.
I would just scream like a girl, say end call, and you guys could finish it up.
Speaking of what, are we limited on time here? Or?
We're really not.
Why?
Yeah, we're limited on how much beer we have left and how much we want to talk.
Yeah, we still got some beer.
There's something I alluded to, which I would like to talk about if you don't mind. And I still have a half a glass here. Is taxes, right? Because I mean, there's no matter how much money you have, no matter how much money you come by, no matter how you come by it, there are two things that are for sure in life, right?
Death and
Death and taxes, and you can't take it with you. But you can certainly get it from the IRS. And I'd just like to say that one of the best decisions that my parents made when they won the lottery the first time was engaging with this legal and accounting team that advised them not only on all the the accounting and legal ramifications, but advise them on all the relevant taxes, right? So that's how my parents found out that if they became essentially professional gamblers, they could deduct certain expenses that they were going to incur anyway. But just even so I would say one of the most important things, because it's one of the things that bites people who come into a large sum of money, a large windfall most quickly, they don't account for the taxes. Nick, you all right there?
Yeah, I'm about to get stung. I'm not gonna lie to you guys.
So,
it's gonna happen.
Well,
I'm going to say this for those of you that are listening to the podcast right now, which I don't know when this will drop on the podcast, but for those of you that are listening, you should really go watch the YouTube video.
Nick is kind of
Because watching Nick lose his crap over here over this bee is hilarious.
Got him.
Okay, good.
I'm sorry to any of my my friends that are people that want to care about every pest and animal.
I think my wife might come in here and kick your ass.
I got stung last week right in the armpit.
Ooh.
That was like the worst feeling in the world. I just didn't want to get stung again.
Yeah,
So
I hear you.
I made an executive decision right there to make sure I can focus on
some things need killing, right? You have to do it, but yeah. But one of the things that people just don't think about, right? Because especially if you're a W-2 person, you work the 9 to 5 or the third shift or whatever it is, because taxes are just they're taken out. Oftentimes you get a refund. It's not something you think a whole lot about. Depending, I think inheritances are handled a little bit differently. But if you're involved in a legal settlement or you win the lottery, even if it's a small amount of money, that's income, right? I mean, you go and the other thing I didn't mention that my mom did. So she won $2.5 million. She won 250,000, right, in the lottery, and following the sort of order of magnitude, she won 25,000 slot machine one time. And there was literally an IRS agent at the casino, which was good, right? Because she probably would have just forgotten about that. I mean, obviously, who could forget about winning $25,000, right? But when she was getting a little bit older or whatever, I could just imagine her getting into trouble over that, right? Even if it was just, or maybe she did remember it, but it becomes an audit issue or something like that. So so I think one of the best things that my parents did early on after they won the lottery was to talk to this legal and accounting team, and the best advice they got was on how to handle their taxes.
Well, I think, so, we talk about that in quite a bit of episodes, whether it's starting a business and things like that, because as you said, I don't know what the percentage is, not, 90% of people are employees, 10% are owners, but you find that people go from W-2 where, where somebody holds your hand through these taxes, and then you get somebody that opens a pizza shop and they get paid cash. So they keep putting it in their pocket. And I had a friend open a, what do you call it? Like interior car detailing shop.
Detailing.
Yep.
And he got the taxes, and he's like, I don't have this kind of money sitting around. And I was like,
Exactly.
I was like, dude, I don't mean to tell you I told you so, but I said, make sure you take 1/3 of everything you get in. And he goes, then I'm not making any money. And I'm like, welcome to owning a business. It sucks.
Exactly.
Like, you don't make money. Like, you have to grow, man. Like, yes, that 1/3 is your big profit, but no, that's Uncle Sam's profit, my man.
Right.
Like, and so, people are like, well, what, I'm not going to be in a 30% tax bracket. And I was like, well, I mean, if you want to, I always say, if you're planning to have a small business and you don't plan to be a high tax bracket, you're planning too small of a business, right? Like, always plan, because the way I see it, if you put 30% away and you're taxed at 22%, yeah, guess what? Your refund is that 8%, right? You get to go on to the next one, or you're, the difference between 22 and 30. And that gives you money to reinvest, to grow, and do all that. So, I find a lot of small business people kind of failing at that because they get hit. I know there's some business that, or, some tax strategies that you can do, where the IRS will take if you're a small business, they will take your payment 4 times a year. Right. So that way you're not hit with all these big, massive ones right away.
And some people who get these windfalls do quarterly taxes as well, right? That's something my parents did. They did quarterly tax payments. But the other thing that a lot of people who have never had to actually write a check to the IRS before don't realize is that, I guess it's great that they take that out if you're a W-2 employee. They take that money out, but you're really giving the government an interest-free loan.
You really are.
And you set this money aside. Not only is there that 8% you mentioned between the 22 and the 30% is your refund, but any money you earn on that throughout the year is also to your benefit, right? So that's something that I just encourage people. Again, regardless if it's a small business or a big windfall, take 1/3 of it, set it aside, which is actually more like 33%. Take 1/3 of it, set it aside, let it make some money for you, and then when it comes tax time, write that check. It's a lot easier to do when you've made $5,000 off of it, right?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Well, that's I have this talk with my real estate friends all the time, right? Because I'm a kind of person where if I get a bill, I just pay it. Where I know David's like, no, it's due today. I'll pay it today, and I'm like, it gives me anxiety. So like, my mentor owns, just way too many properties, right? I mean, he was giving me crap because I paid $10,000 on one of my places for taxes, and he's like, oh, he's like, I added a 0 just on one, and I was like, that's insane. But I was like, oh, I paid mine. It was due August 31st, let's say. I paid mine like in July, and he's like, nope, I'll have mine postmarked and guaranteed by August 31st. Like, he goes, I have a whole nother month I can earn money on my money, and I was like, yeah. He goes, yeah, you're probably too poor. I think he said the words, you're probably too poor where your money doesn't actually make money. And I started laughing. I was like, thanks for rubbing that in a little bit more. But no, even at that, like we talk about it, like that $33 makes a lot of money, man. It's insane. So,
well, when Dawn opened her business, I have always done our taxes because, I'm the money guy and I'm good with that stuff. And she had said to me, she goes, do you think this is going to be over you? And I'm like, listen, there's a whole lot to know to do taxes for a business and figure out everything you can deduct. So yeah, I think this is over me. I think we need to find somebody who's really good at this.
Exactly.
So she went out and talked to, the people in all the business groups she's in, and she landed on the CPA, and he does all of the tax shit. He took our taxes over because it was no more for him to do our personal taxes than it was for him to do our business taxes. Yep. So basically it was 2 for 1.
Yeah.
At that point, I don't have to worry about it. So I'm like, all right, that's fine. So I do my mother's taxes, I do my daughter's taxes, and he does my taxes.
Yeah. I think it's some of the best money you can spend, right?
Well, I say, It really is, because I mean they're going to give you deductions that you don't know about, and the chances of getting audited when you use a professional is so much smaller.
Yep.
Right. Like I remember the first time I had a rental property, I did my own taxes. I ended up getting audited. Right. And I don't know what the system is, but it's like it must show, hey, I'm trying to take a deduction. And they're like, where are you getting this? And I was like, now I use an accountant. They're like, boom, I have like $50,000 more deductions than I had. Like, I think I claimed $500 back then. It's like, I put in the refrigerator in, but no, it's insane. These people they pay to educate themselves. They get what the government, so right, they get certified in what the government says is allowed. So right, I say this all the time. If the government sets the rules and they get educated on what the government has the rules of, I didn't learn those rules, man. Right. I don't know anything about it. Like, yes, you know what? I get angry every time I go see my accountant? I love her to pieces, but I walk out with a substantial tax bill, and
Sure.
I paid every year. My wife goes, "Do you want to go to dinner?" And I'm like, "I just dropped a crap ton of money," right. But we still go out to dinner. So, but it's that point where, right, there's always a professional that can do something better than what you can do it. Yep. And for taxes, I think that's huge to find somebody that can do it for you.
Yeah. And again, especially when it's such a paradigm shift, such a, mindset shift from, whatever you've got going to make money to all of a sudden now you've had a substantial amount of money land in your lap. It's the best money you can spend, quite honestly. Yeah. And I believe in most cases, also tax deductible, right? Whatever you.
Yep. I think I know an accountant is tax deductible in every case. I don't know if there's one that's not.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think I don't, because I'm not. I don't want to say that it is in every case, but
no, because that's I think every case, because my accountant gives me that joke every year. Well, at least you get to write this off next year, and I'm like, wow, thanks. Like, I keep buying more places, so it keeps getting more expensive for her to do, and I'm like, all right.
Like, that's him saying that is like the lube to bend you over, right?
Yep. But all right, anything else that you guys think we missed?
I think we
just the last quarter of this beer, but
I don't have a quarter. No, I think we hit a lot of stuff here. And Mike, you've been very quiet because as usual, you're listening along here. What do you think, Mike?
I think I don't ever expect to be as lucky as Jim's mom.
Okay, but
none of us do.
Assuming you are, what are the first three things you do?
If I were to come into a windfall of any sort, I would get a hold of, it would depend on the amount. Mm-hmm. If it's
substantial, multi-millions.
I'd find a financial planner for something really substantial. I would pay off things like my house, my car. Not that I own that money on my car right now, but definitely my house, any other bills that might be outstanding. And then I would invest.
Taxes. Find out the tax implications too.
That's true, taxes.
Please do that. Yep. But yes, invest, because that will cover your investments. Then, if you invest it instead of spending it, then you'll have money to pay the taxes.
So either Nick or Jim brought up Brewster's Millions. I think it was Jim. So
I'd forgotten about that movie.
That is the greatest movie.
I haven't seen it in 20 years.
Oh my God, I love it so much. I own it on DVD and on
VHS.
Oh. So the issue with Brewster came into an inheritance. He could take a certain amount of money, which I think was $1 million, to just walk away. Or he could try for $300 million by spending $30 million in 30 days. And he had to have no assets by the time he was done.
Right.
And literally, if he just took the money, the 30 million, and put it in an interest-bearing account, which didn't even have to be a huge amount of interest, he would have had so much money left over that if you never needed it, you could just live off the interest and not ever touch that 30 million. And honestly, I think that is honestly the dream. So if I had a windfall of money and I could just live off of whatever the interest was paying me, and I never had to touch that principal. I'm a happy guy. I can go on vacation and I can go, open a business and I can
Fire
go.
movement episode.
There you go. I mean, that's the dream.
It's funny you mentioned that, David, because prior to my mom winning the lottery in the 1980s, when I was a little bit younger, my brothers and I, like I would hear them say, "Oh, if I," and keep in mind, in the late 70s and early 80s, interest rates were pretty high, right? So you could literally invest $1 million and live off the interest easily. I mean, very easily, right? It was more than enough for anybody. And I remember, then when my parents actually won the lottery, the reality hit, right? And the reality was things like taxes and stuff like that. And so and obviously they didn't get it in one lump sum, but yeah, the reality is obviously different than the dream. But yeah, I think the dream is, right, just have enough money, and it's an endowment, right? Invest the principal and live off the interest. That's what everybody wants to do.
So, all right, guys. Hey, I want to give a big shout out to my brother again.
I'm gonna give him a hand. Thank you,
Yeah.
brother.
I want to try that European Reds.
No, the Wisconsin Belgian Red.
Whatever it is.
We're all out over here.
He needs to bring some more back.
Yeah, no, they're out over there too. So, yeah, New Glarus Brewing, really hands down, Wisconsin Belgian Red, fantastic. The Oktoberfest beer, it was okay. I actually enjoyed the one I had last week a little bit more, the Octillion.
How was the stout?
What's that?
How was the stout?
The coconut porter, right? It was a smooth
porter.
coconut porter, not too front flavored with everything. Yeah, I enjoyed it, but I think I tasted this first, and then my mouth was just ready to go back to this and finish with it. So I think it was, the porter was a good beer. I drank it really fast just so I can get to this one because of how amazing it really was. So, guys, thanks so much for watching this episode, listening to it. We have a website now. We have a new logo. If you guys haven't seen that logo, that thing is awesome.
Yes. Thanks to Nate Barrett.
Shout out to Nate Barrett on the awesome logo.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's right. I got me a little Detroit color hat. David, a nice looking beard. The logo is awesome. The green and then the beer brewing colors. It's really cool. Twitter, we're starting to try to be this young hip vibe thing.
We're trying to be this young hip vibe thing with old people.
Yeah, so if anybody wants to intern for us and work for free, if you're 21, we'll probably feed you some beer whenever we get a sponsor.
We're the village elders.
Yeah, and we are the village elders.
But so down here, subscribe, share. I think the subscribe is the bell. So everybody likes to ring a bell. Hit that bad boy for us. I really appreciate it. James, thanks so much for joining us.
I'm gonna give a shout out to Sheboygan here for their blueberry cream ale, which really paired really well with Founders.
Big luscious. This is really amazing. I can't believe I've not tried this before, but yes.
Raspberry.
Love it.
And just give it a couple more shout outs because we're all about shout outs here. Again, Michigan Wine Company, who sponsored us a couple weeks ago with their excellent cider. Yeah. I think the next time Jim's on, we should have them again. Break Room Therapy, obviously, because my wife reminded me that I did not list them on our sponsors list because I suck. So again, like Nick said, subscribe, share, check out the podcast, check out the YouTube videos. Please give us some feedback. We really need to know what you think. And
apparently we're like an hour. So if you guys are bored, just skip to like an hour. I mean, granted, we're now past that, but just skip to the end and then go back and watch the YouTube, and you'll see me like swatting at a giant.
Yeah.
Seriously, him swatting at the bee was the best.
Hoping you guys seen it fly by my head. That thing was huge. So
it was huge. It was like the size of somebody's fist. I mean,
it was like Tommy Boy
fist, but somebody's fist for sure.
All right, we will see you guys next week. I have no idea what we're talking about.
Peace.